How does a fleece roller work? That is a great question. While automatic fleece rollers might look complex, their function or how they work is actually really straightforward. And I think the easiest place to start understanding them is to look at what it is that they're replacing. Filter socks are the most common form of frontline mechanical filtration for our reef tanks. As soon as water enters the sump, it'll pass through one or more filter socks that help remove any physical waste, like uneaten food, fish turds, bits of algae, and other organic matter and particulates that are floating in the water column. Once they're completely saturated with waste, or after 3 to 4 days, whichever comes first, you'll want to remove them from the sump, rinse them out in a sink to remove all of that waste, and then put the now clean filter socks back into the sump. They work very well, but they're also a lot of work to maintain, and that is where automatic fleece rollers come in. A fleece roller replaces filter socks at the beginning of your sump's filtration and automates the removal of waste that is trapped so that you don't have to clean out socks every few days. Instead of water from the main drain line of your aquarium entering the filter sock section of your sump, it'll instead attach to the fleece roller. As water enters the fleece roller, it'll then have to pass through a thin sheet of fleece before it can travel to the next section of the sump. And just like a filter sock, as water passes through the fleece, any physical waste like uneaten food or fish turds gets trapped on the fleece. And this is where the automation comes in. As the fleece traps more and more waste, less and less water can pass through it, which causes the water level inside of the fleece roller to raise up. As it raises, it'll come into contact with a sensor on the fleece roller, which tells the motor on the fleece roller to activate. As the motor turns, it removes the old fleece from the water and collects it on a spindle, and fresh fleece replaces the old fleece. The new fleece allows the water to flow freely again, and the water level inside of the fleece roller drops back down and is no longer touching the sensor. That exact process happens over and over, constantly removing filthy fleece and replacing it with new fleece, saving you from having to remove and clean filter socks manually. Now, that isn't to say that fleece rollers are completely maintenance-free. That fleece roll will eventually get used up and you'll need to replace it with a fresh roll of fleece. But depending on your system, it could be many weeks between those changes, which easily trumps cleaning socks every 3 days. You will also want to periodically clean the fleece roller itself to make sure all of its components are working smoothly, but again, it'll be a task that you might do every few months, maybe once or twice a year, which still beats the heck out of cleaning filter socks every 3 days. The only real trade-off here is that automatic fleece rollers are going to have an upfront cost that filter socks just don't have, and they're also going to have a higher running cost than most filter sock systems. Firstly, you can expect to spend at least a few $100 to get a good fleece roller, one of my absolute favorites being Red Sea's Reef Mat, which is also app controlled and super user friendly. It is certainly a decent chunk of change, but the value in the time you save not cleaning filter socks makes it a relatively easy investment for an avid reefer to justify. When it comes to fleece replacements, sticking with my Red Sea Reef Mat example, you can expect to be spending roughly $16 to $30 depending on the size of your aquarium every 5 to 8 weeks, depending on how much fleece your aquarium goes through. Comparing that to filter socks at roughly $10 a sock, with most systems using 1 to 2 filter socks at a time, assuming that you're thoroughly washing them out and you can continue to reuse them for at least 3 months before replacing them, you are certainly going to be spending a bit more on replacing fleece, but again, for the convenience of not having to keep up with washing out grungy socks, which is actually super important if you plan to use filter socks, because if you don't actually remove them and clean them out often, bad things happen. We did testing to see just how bad filter socks can be if left to their own devices, and you can see the results in this video. Definitely check it out.